All right, let's welcome back Coach Ambrose. This is the second time he is the offense coordinator at Franklin High School, right?
Correct.
See, I knew I remembered.
Yep.
I'm not as dumb as I think I am. Well, Coach, welcome back, second time. Thanks for being here on a late night in December. Now I keep forgetting that it's December.
Yep. Appreciate you having me back on. Had a fun time the first one.
Yeah, I checked. I had to check today. It was like a year and a half ago, I think.
Yeah, I think it was after we won the state title, I think 2 years ago. I think was when I was on
That's
last.
right.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yep. hmm
So how was the season this year? Did you guys get back there, or was it just the playoffs?
well, we got back to state. However, we did not win it this year. So we were 13-1, lost in the state championship game. So had a really good year again. Felt pretty confident going into that last game. Just ran into a team that they could match us physically, and they had a good game plan and they got us. So it was a tight game through half. It was tied 10-10 at half, and then they came out in the second half and did a great job on both sides, and they ended up beating us 27-10. So good year though. I mean, we had a fun time. We had a really good, really talented team again, similar to what we had 2 years ago. So it was good though. Fun year.
Um, how many games you said 13 once you get 14 games. So is it like 10 regular season games into the playoffs, or how does it work?
We play 9 regular season, and
Okay.
then there's 32 teams make each division in the playoffs here.
Okay.
Mhm.
Um, because Illinois is right now voting for the next 2 weeks if they want to move to districts, which is, similar enrollment. Right now we get split up into 8 classes. So 32 make it in each class, 256 total. They're talking about making it districts and making it to where like 400 or so make it. And I'm curious how other states are working that because I'm not for districts because it's just about enrollment and then it's going to change every year. So like you get put in and it's supposed to help travel. And I'm like, it's not going to help that at all.
Yeah, so ours is kind of screwy too. We've tried to pass some different things that have failed. So the way it works right now, so similar to what you just said, each division we have 32 teams make it. And then what they do is within the 32 in each division, they break you up into four, basically what they call regional groupings,
Mhm.
right? So it's a regional based tournament essentially. So you could, theoretically end up with, several of the best teams in the same region, which typically for us is what happens a lot of the time. Just we're kind of in the hotbed down here in the,
Mhm.
South Milwaukee area. You have us. We've been to the state title game 2 of the last 3 years, 4 times in the last 10 years. And then you've got 8 miles west of us is Muskego High School, who they've been to this I think 3 times in the last 10 years and won it twice. We got McGuanago High School, which is about another 10 west of them. They were there last year. They were the runner up. So there's a lot of the times where we end up in our area with a lot of the really good teams. So they group you into the 8, and then they have a computer do the seeding within your grouping. So actually this year we got to be part of probably the biggest controversy in the state. We were 9-0 going in, and Muskego, the team right next door to us, they're in a different league than we are, though. They were 8-1, and they got the 1 seed over us. So we had to go to them in the quarterfinals, which sucked that we didn't get that home game, but we did go out. We beat them 35-7, so it worked out. Anyway, so they've tried I think it was last year they tried voting on seating it, doing I don't know if it was a north to south 1-16 or an east to west 1-16.
Mhm.
I don't know, but that did not pass with. I think our state association decided not to move forward. I think it was approved by our coaches association, but the state association that actually oversees the playoffs and all that, they decided not to go that way. So we have all kinds of weird stuff. We have now they just implemented. You guys may have this. They have a success factor now too. If you accumulate so many points over a 3 year
Yep.
period, you get bumped up a division. So this coming year in 24 will be the first year of that. So you're going to have a bunch of teams that are going to get bumped up a division. For us, it doesn't matter because we're already in the largest division, and we're one of two teams that would, as of right now, qualify to move up in that big division, but we have nowhere to go, so we're just staying where we are. So that's new. We also have football only, kind of like what you were saying, districts. They call them conferences here, so you may not play the teams that are actually in your overall athletic conference. For football at least. So you can there's a whole thing with that too where it's mostly regional based, but you
Hmm.
can apply for relief every 2 years. Essentially, it's mostly for teams that can't compete. I think they can apply to get moved basically to an easier league. We have tried to do the opposite. We have tried to get into more difficult leagues
Uh,
unsuccessfully, just because the league that we're in, we've only lost three league games in the last 10 years.
wow.
So it's not overly competitive for us, and we've tried to get into somewhere where we can play some better teams more often. Just and I think this year was a good some good evidence for that. Just the computer formula. We were undefeated, and we got seated behind a team that had a loss, so the computer didn't rate our strength of schedule or one of the factors. I don't know. They tell us what the criteria are, but they don't tell you how it's weighted, so you don't know which part of it might have cost us. But anyway, so yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on up here with all that too.
Yeah, because this district thing got brought up COVID or maybe 2021. I don't remember. It passed, but then they looked at it again and they realized they didn't really look at what they were voting on, like the athletic directors and principals. There was no rough draft made of what the it was going to look like. So when they got a rough draft after they voted yes, they voted to revisit it. Didn't like how it looked, voted it down, so it was done. Now they're bringing it up again, and it's supposed to help. Oh, because some teams are in conferences that they choose to be in and they travel far, and they're like, well, this will help with travel, and we're going to play teams that are the same enrollment, and blah 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 blah. But then if you look at rural areas in Illinois, south of I-80 in the suburbs, you may be traveling farther than what you are in your conference. We looked at a rough draft for our school and we looked at the teams we're going to play. We're like, no, 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 no. We don't want to play those teams because they're really good. Like, and we made the playoffs this year and it was the first time since 2014. Like, that's where we are. And so they're voting on this. And Derek Leonard at Rochester in Illinois, he said it perfectly. You're trying to make your problems my problems because in our conference it's tough. We're all really much the same anyway. Now you're trying to change it. And then it says like, oh, you'll be locked in for a year or two. And then if the enrollment changes, then your district's going to change. Top four of each district are going to get into the playoffs, blah, 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 blah. Then the private schools are also accumulated into our playoff. And that's been a big thing this year for us as public versus private because I don't know how their private school works in Illinois. They get a 30, 40-mile radius of like how to bring kids in. And up in the suburbs, it's churned into a ridiculous factor of, oh, this team is dominant public school. They get to a private school in the playoff and they lose by 60. Like it's become a huge thing. So that's what they're voting on right now. And then private schools get the multiply. It's just all stupid. It's too much. And I like the conference stuff, but the district stuff, I don't know.
Yep, yep, yeah. We see a lot of the same stuff. We play. But the team that we got beat by in the state championship game is a private school team, Marquette University High School. So they're affiliated with the university somehow. I don't know exactly how that affiliation works, but private Catholic school. And then we play Catholic Memorial, our week one game, which they are been one of the more successful programs in the state over the last 10 years. I think they've got 4 or 5 state titles in the last decade. So this was we beat them week one this year in a tight game. I mean, the talent level is ridiculous. I mean, they've got running back going to Penn State, a lineman going to Penn State. They've got another 4 or 5 star old lineman. I mean, they got all kinds of dudes on their team. So we beat them this year though. So that was fun. But yeah, a lot of the same stuff that we deal with.
That well, it's a little soapbox, but we're dealing with like they show up to our youth practices and try to get the kids. And then for some reason, the guy that runs the youth organization lets people associated with the Catholic schools in there to coach, which we don't like because how are you feeding into us? And, they're then we heard that they were sending coaches to our stands this year to watch our Friday night games, finding the disgruntled parent, maybe swooping in, which they're not supposed to do. But then how do we prove it? And so it's, I'm friends with a couple Catholic coaches, and they will not do that stuff. It's the other ones that feel like they have to win the state title every year. And the only reason why they came to our games because they were like, wait a minute, Addison Trail was 2-7 last year. Now they're sitting at, I think we were 6-1 or 6-2 at the time, and like, wait a minute, let's go see what they got and see if we can't get that kid or two kids to us. And they came to a game that we weren't supposed to win, and we won. And another public school coach told us that. He goes, "Hey, I just want you to know, like, we found these guys at our games, and I think they're going to be at your game." And so we're like, this is getting out of control, where you're just going to show up and try to swoop in. And same thing, like these schools, like, oh, this kid's going to Florida, this kid's going to Illinois, this kid's going to USC, this kid's going to Texas. They had a Texas A&M defensive lineman at one of the schools. I'm like, wait, what? And
Yeah.
we're at a public school dealing with what we got. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I know you get more talent than we do, but we're just like, wait, what?
Yeah. Yeah. We're lucky with our youth program. It's pretty much all, I mean, we're a one district town, I guess. I mean, granted, we're a suburb of Milwaukee, so it's not, we border several other towns, but for the most part, our kids, when they play for us as little guys, they pretty much all end up with us someday. So we don't get a lot of people trying to poach. I think they probably know better than to come out here and try to poach from us. Um, but for the most part, yeah, we've had pretty good success. Our guys go first grade all the way up, and they're pretty. My son is actually a first grader, so this was his
Oh,
first year this year, so it's pretty cool. So to get to see it from that side now.
yeah. Is it just a youth program to feed right into your high school, or do like other kids come play there, but they might go to a different high school?
We get a few that do that. Not a lot. For the most, I'd say it's probably 90% at least of kids that will feed into our high school.
Okay. Yeah, that's what
So
happened with
yeah.
ours. Like it was, I remember my first year at the school, I saw these huge kids. They're like eighth grade. I'm like, oh, those are linemen. They're going to come to me. I'm so excited. And I go up there, and then you hear, well, I live at 15, 20 miles that way in this town. I'm going to such and such high school, or I'm going to this private school. And then you see a quarterback slinging it. And we're like, look at that kid. Yeah, I live in Rockford, Illinois, which is like 40 miles. And you're like, what? Like, you're here playing sports here? And they're like, yeah, well, we want to win championships because the youth thing is about going to Florida and winning these
Uh,
championships. And I'm like, it's cool, but that's not what you're supposed to be doing.
yeah. Yeah. Right. Yeah. So ours is cool because they, at least our first through fourth grade, they only play against each other. So we have two teams at every grade level. So the way, well, I should say that the way the first through fourth grade works is there's actually four teams, I think. So they combine first and second grade together. They have four teams, and then they combine third and fourth grade together, and they have four teams, and they only play against each other
Okay.
at that level. So they play, I think they played every team twice. So they had played 6 games total. And then once they get to fifth grade, then the teams are separated completely. So you have two fifth grade, two sixth grade, two seventh grade, two eighth grade, and then they will go out and play. I think the league they play in is like, I think it's called the AAYFL.
Mhm.
I don't know exactly what the acronym stands for, but they'll go play other surrounding communities, teams, and stuff like that. So,
Right.
but yeah, for the most part, we very rarely have kids that don't feed right into our high school. Like I can't think off the top of my head, I can't think of any the past few years that have gone anywhere else. So
That's how it is where I grow up. It's like wherever you play, that's where you get fit into. And then Chicago suburbs are like, well, this youth program is going to feed to these three high schools, and this one's going to go to these three high schools. And I'm like, what? Because I grew up in Central Illinois and then up here in 2018, and I'm like, wait, this is completely different than what I'm used to. And they're like, well, I mean, you got high schools right by each other all over the place, high school districts. So like for us, there's two high schools in our district, and that's it. There's no grade schools, there's no middle schools, and so it's just all crazy. And so it's been a battle of getting these kids to come to us. And winning cures all. So hopefully we end up 7-4 this year, which was, the best thing since 2014. And we're hoping that maybe now they'll want to stay. Like, oh, that looked cool. First road playoff win too since 1997. We were telling people that, like, oh, we went into the city, we beat a city school, blah blah blah. Why don't you want to come? You want to come here now? But we have to be careful how we say it. It looks like we're recruiting, and then the private schools can come in and say that, but we have to be careful.
Yep, yeah, I know how it goes, man. We're fortunate here. I think we've got a pretty good deal for the most part, though. So I can't really complain.
Will they like run your guys' stuff at that youth level too?
Yep, for the most part. I this was the first time, like I said, my son's in first grade, so I had never been around a ton at their games and such until this year. But I usually meet a couple of times during the off season with all of the coaches that are going to coach. It's part of the requirement basically if they want to coach is they have to come to these sessions with us.
Okay.
So to learn schematically what we do, but B
Right.
we go through general coaching strategy and just how to do stuff essentially. How do you be a football coach? Because a lot of them are just dads, right?
Mhm.
They've never or we have some former players that are coaching in it now that volunteer, that have never coached before. So it's just one of those things. But they do run for the most part our offense and defense. I know at the first grade level they would run. I think we had three run plays. That was
Mhm.
just like an inside run, basically inside zone, outside zone, and they had a jet sweep, right?
Right.
That's what they had. And then they had, I think, maybe three pass plays. You got, hitch seam, slant, and
Mhm.
like a boot or something like that. So it was all of our stuff. And they call it what we do. At that so all of those teams at that level run the same stuff. And then I know as they get into the fifth through eighth grade teams will start to they'll start to specialize a little bit based off of the kids that they have. So we give them, for the most part, give them access to parts of the playbook that they need,
Mhm.
from us to make sure that they're doing it. We give them recommendations. They'll ask. I'll say, here's what I would do. Some of them listen, some of them don't. You get
Right.
the overzealous dads sometimes that
Mhm.
they want to win the championship rather than teach the kids.
Yep.
But for the most part, they're good. We do, for our head coach does sit on the board, for the youth program, so he has a good amount of say, in what they do. And his big thing, I know when he took over, he's been the head coach for 13 years, I think. So, but predates me coming here. But his big thing was he wanted every grade level, so long as it was feasible, they had to have two teams, and it was not going to be an A and a B team. It was split them evenly.
Mhm.
Um, we don't care if you win. We don't care what your record is. Your goal is to get those kids to learn football, to love football, so that they can win a state title when they get to be seniors.
Right.
That's really the goal of it for us. Is we never push the winning, and like I said, sometimes you have the overzealous dads that push it a little too far, and I know he's had to have some conversations with some of them, like, hey, you gotta cool it with some of this stuff, run what we do, because you get some of those guys that have, will show up at a game. I've only been to one of the eighth grade games, and we had one of the teams was empty almost every play, and the other team was running our heavy stuff almost every play. So so they get what they get based off the kids they have and how the teams get split up, I guess. So, but yeah, it's pretty good for the most part. I think they do a good job. It's certainly helped because those kids get to us as freshmen, and they have an understanding of the terminology and a lot of that stuff. So it's good.
I was gonna say it's like they have a head start, like
Yep.
what you
Mm-hmm.
guys are doing. Uh, then our poor freshman coaches get these kids that either never played football before. They're like, "What do you mean you're running inside zone? We don't know what that is. We were running the wing tee or something." And I'm like, "Oh God, here we go. All right, let's get through it." And I have to go down there and help for a little bit, like in the summer, and be like, "All right, this is what we're doing. Make sure that we're doing this." And if they can't do it, let me know and we'll switch it. But like for right now, this is what you're going to do. You know, because I think that's the thing that we've adapted is I want to do X, Y, and Z, but then if the kids can't do it, are we able to adapt it? But I was stuck. I was like wide zone, inside zone, where you're stuck on that. And then the OC wants to do power. So we kind of are like, I had to force him to do inside zone as the run game guy. Like we have to do wide zone and inside zone. And wasn't the hugest fan of wide zone. And then this year became our best run play. And he goes, Steve, I love this play. And I'm like, I know it's great, isn't it? Because we're getting back to the line of scrimmage, if not getting 5 yards. It's fantastic. Or we can seal the edge and it becomes outside zone while we're still running wide zone and we have the outside or the more cutback all the way. Because we went straight pistol this year, so it made it even better than doing it like from sidecar.
Yep. Yep. Agreed. Yeah, we're kind of the same boat. We run still primarily zone based, inside zone, wide zone. We got more into the dual world this year. We have really good running back. That was really good coming downhill. And we do dabble in some different gap scheme stuff depending on teams that we're seeing. Like we'll run some counter more than power. We're not really a true power team, kick with the tight end or fullback and wrap with the guard. We don't do a ton of that, but we're more of the counter GY, that kind of stuff. We'll run some of the the I don't want to call it G, or it's kind of like the old wing T belly almost, kind of we'll pull a front side guard and kick out, or pull a center and kick out. We'll even do that with the lead kick and then lead through the hole. We run some crack sweep, crack toss, that kind of stuff. So, but still probably 80% zone based, I would say. So
we did the exact same thing. Our head coach, if it's up to our head coach, we'd be an I formation and just run fullback, running back. Me and the OC are like, well, hold on, we want to be 11, 12 personnel or whatever and spread it out a little bit. But he's like, okay, I just want toss or sweep put in. And so we get in that nasty set, the bunch set, shift, and we got into big shifts this year, shift over, run toss. That became our like inside zone, wide zone toss were like our three babies right there. Then, like you said, we tried power, traditional power. It's not the same for some reason. And we just didn't have the guys that could kick out that were not linemen. So we did the exact same thing. We started to run GY counter. We found, the guard kicking out and him leading up is way easier than that. Or we'd run ISO with the wing, and then we try to run old school where it was pull the guard around and insert the wing at the same time, like that old school stuff. And it worked beautifully. Then you can run like a pop pass off of that, insert the wing, boom, whatever. Because we were dealing with a sophomore quarterback this year. He broke his foot last year as a freshman, came in. We didn't know if he was going to be the starter. Well, because you'll hate this. We had a kid last year, junior, 6'3", 185 quarterback. He was a junior. Loved it, it was his real first time. Coming into the summer, we didn't know if he was going to play football. Right now, he was sitting at 215. He put on that much muscle, and we were so excited. I'm just going to focus on baseball, is what he said. So we had the sophomore quarterbacks. We had to make everything run based and super easy on this kid.
Yep. Yeah. We do a lot of the same stuff. We'll line up in the eye and pound it. We actually, you talked about not having a guy that could kick out and do some of that stuff. We actually did put, we have a really good defensive lineman, or two really good defensive linemen on our team. One is getting he's got some offers from like the service academies, FCS schools, that kind of thing. We brought him over to play some guard this year. But what we did later down the stretch was we actually have put a package in where we lined him up at fullback. He's 6'3", 270, playing fullback. So we're doing a bunch of stuff with him where we'd line up we'd go an eye with another off the ball tight end, and then we'd use him so we would just basically block zone up front, use him to kick, and then use that other tight end as the wrap guy. So similar to a more of a true power without a lineman pulling, I guess. So we did that a bunch with him. We put in we've had a heavy package that we've used for a few years now. It's a 6 lineman package, usually with at least another 2 tight ends, or sometimes with tight end and 2, bring a fullback in. And then we had a package later in the year, this year, that was just a true 6 linemen, and we could pretty much run everything out of it. Just put that guy at tight end and had him flip around a little bit. So we've done a little bit of both, or all of that stuff, but it's been good for us as a change up. Like I said, our running back this year was really good. He's a big kid. He's going to Buffalo. He was the state offensive player of the year. Had a really really good year. So he's about 205, 210, pretty big kid. So you got a 270-pound fullback leading through for a 210-pound running back. It's a good combination. So
Yeah.
short yardage was good for us down the stretch.
You said you dabbled in the duo world this year. We did the
Mhm.
same. All in the summer, I ran it. I was like, we're going to get rid of ISO and kind of dabble into that because the way I was blocking inside zone, the footwork stuff was going to be the same, but you do have to go opposites. Inside zone right, you're kind of looking to the right. Lineman wise, now when you're going duo right, you're kind of looking to the left. It's power without the polar. Was there any challenges getting into that duo world for them, or were they able to pick up on it? Because we picked it up. Then when we saw another team in the summer, we get to go practice with another team. Then their heads start spinning in duo because they never done it before. And
Mhm.
you know,
So for us, it actually, and I guess I said dabbled. I probably that's understating it. It actually was with our running back that we had is. Uh, I haven't finished up the analysis from the year, but my guess is it's probably going to be either our first or second most efficient run. Either
oh
that
wow,
or our wide zone is my guess. It was really good. We had a game actually. I spoke of Muskego, the team that got seeded ahead of us in the playoffs.
Mhm.
They are a 3-3 stack team. Probably the Illinois guys will know the very Chad Hetlett esque
Mhm.
type defense. The Glenbard teams. I
in
know
our
they're
in our conference on the other side.
okay. Yep. So yeah, their DC. He's actually a good friend of mine. I know knows Chad fairly well, and that's where a lot of that defense came from. But we ran. I think our running back had 33 carries for 190 yards or something that game, and I bet of those 33 carries, probably 20 to 25 of them are duo.
Wow.
It just worked out really well with that the three stack. If the team's not going to break the stack,
Yeah.
and you have a tight end in there, you're essentially you can get three double teams up front, and work right up the stack. So it's a really good play for us. But back to your question about, it was easy for them to pick up. It was pretty simple because we teach it essentially like you did, exactly like our inside zone stuff. What we did though is we taught the running back, right? So the way that we called it, the way that our wording works for our run plays, and we have a right and a left name for everything basically. So we kept it for the O lineman the exact same, so that they knew, okay, well, inside zone left is technically the same as duo right,
Hmm.
right? As far as they're concerned, right? But the running back is who we taught to do it differently. So the running back's insert point changed. So that was really the
Right.
only thing, his insert point and his read obviously changed. But so for the most part, it was pretty easy for them to pick up. And we did it almost, I'd say probably 80% out of pistol.
Hmm.
We did a little bit of it from gun right, gun left stuff. Not a ton. It just hits better out of
Hmm.
pistol, I think.
Right.
I remember watching JT O'Sullivan did a duo clinic like on his YouTube channel probably a year or two ago, and I was watching it and I'm like, man, this would be really easy for us to put in. So we did it, and he did it a ton from a squeeze line, tight bunch
Uh-huh.
alignment. So we did it a lot from that as well. But yeah, it ended up being a really, really good play for us down the stretch. Especially, probably the level three or the quarterfinals, the semifinal games, and the playoffs. That was we really hit teams hard with that. So it was very, very good play.
Yeah, it was kind of our running backs were kind of our issue. I think the line was picking it up. It was the lineman or the running back reading the linebacker. They
Yep.
Nothing against our running backs. We were kind of starting fresh. We had a transfer come in from Glenbard West, actually, where Chad is. He was a senior. Then we had a couple guys that were sophomores, and they never done it before. Again, they never did it before. And so we kind of scrapped it. I felt like I wasted so much time in the summer putting it in, but it ended up becoming, wide zone was kind of taken over. And so I said, okay, if we're going to sacrifice duo, we'll just keep doing wide zone inside ISO, and we're fine. Like everything's good.
Yep.
Um,
Yep. Yeah. It worked out well. The only other little tweak that we did make, obviously, is with the tackle on, I guess technically on duo, it's the play side, so that backside tackle, like on inside zone, who would typically climb,
Mhm.
or move off. A lot of times, it depends on the front, but against an odd front, rather than climb right away, he's going to now double with the tight end. That was the only other tweak that those guys had to really learn with it. Because obviously, if you play against, if you're going against a traditional, even front, that they're going to play over
Mhm.
front against you with their strength set to your tight end. That tackle is going to come off the double the three tech. It's going to look like inside zone. It doesn't
Right.
really look any different as far as the outsider goes. And I always tell when guys ask me what's the difference, I just look at how we insert the running back. I mean,
Mhm.
that to me, that's the only thing that's going to look different when we do it. But the odd front, there's the tell with, does the tackle climb right away, or is he staying on the end and doubling with the tight end? That was really the
Mhm.
only other tweak we had to make. So we did too. We're fortunate to have a couple of really good tight ends. Um, we had an all region tight end, and we had both of our tight ends were all conference. Um, really good. The one that's a junior is a very big body. He's 6'5", 225, very athletic. And the other guy's a little smaller, he's 6'3", 195. But we get into 12 personnel quite a bit, tight end wing stuff, and run duo behind those guys, and that was a tough play for people to stop.
Yeah, that's what we were hoping for. We were hoping to have bigger tight ends, and we didn't, so that did not help either. But yeah, I learned. I kept talking to the OC at Western Illinois. He ran it when he was at New Hampshire, maybe. I can't remember where he was. And he sent me film, and he goes, "Yeah, you can tell by the insert of the running back." He goes, "Now we'll watch college football. You'll figure it out." Because I think I offended him right when I started the podcast with him. I made a joke. I was like, "All right, so tell me what's the difference between duo and inside zone?" Trying to be a jackass. And he sat up and he goes, "Well, let me tell you, I've been studying this for like 10 years." And I was like, "I was sorry, it's a Twitter thing. You always go, is it inside zone or duo?" And he goes, "Just look at the running back, look at the running back, look at the running back." And I'm like, "I'm sorry to offend you that for asking that dumb question." And so he showed me the film, and I'm like, "Okay, I see what you're saying now. I understand. I'm so sorry." I did the same thing with wide zone, learning it years ago. I said, I said, teach me wide zone. And then during the conversation, I said outside zone. He goes, "Whoa, whoa, 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 whoa. What do you mean?" And I said, "What do you mean? What do I mean?" And he's like, those are two different things. Do you want wide zone or outside zone? So I offend people when I ask them questions about it, apparently, is because I said, "What's the difference?" And so they taught me the difference. I'm like, "Oh." And
Yeah.
me learning, I helped our defensive coordinator out too sometimes, like, "Oh, they're running wide zone." I'm like, "No, no, no, it's actually outside zone." And he goes, "Well, what's the
Mm-hmm.
difference?" And I'm like, "You see the lineman's footwork, you see how they're not getting upfield, they're getting lateral and trying to hook. And, well, what's wide zone?" I was like, "You see how they're pushing them to the sideline? There's your wide zone."
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep. Yeah, we're in the same boat. I mean, we call it outside zone, just what we call, I think just more of a traditional thing, but we run more wide zone.
Right.
It's yeah, same thing. Yeah, I same as you. There's the difference, obviously, but yeah, to like our kids and people in our program, they don't really, we never look at the difference. I guess it's not so much we're trying to hook, or trying to get to the edge all the time. It's just if we can, great. If not, we're gonna stick our foot in the ground and get downhill.
Yeah, I had to stick with calling it wide zone because our running backs would probably take the path of least resistance and say, "Well, I'm always going to go to the outside."
Yep.
And I have to tell them, "I want you downhill as quickly as possible." Now, when we had a tight end or that bunch set and run it that way, it becomes an outside zone just because of naturally how, I call them the softies, how they hook them. They're just they'll hook them. But our running backs will just be like, "Oh, wow, outside zone. I'm just going to keep going outside." So I had to say the words, "This is wide zone," because I don't know where you're going.
Yep.
And then I start to think about it, how crazy football has changed. Because back in the day, it was like you're going to run 44 here and you're running right to this hole, or when you're running here, you're running right to here. And I kind of came in and told some of these coaches, "Yeah, power. You want me to run power?" And they're like, "Yeah, we want to hit it in the C gap." I'm like, "I don't know if it's always going to hit there." And they go, "What do you mean?" I was like, "It depends how they line up. It might be A gap power." And the coaches started thinking about it, and they're like, "Oh, that's kind of true." And I was like, "Zones, I don't know where it's going to hit. I know where I want it to go. but I can't guarantee you that that's where it's going to go. And I think the kids kind of like that too when I told them that, because they're like, wait, so it's not going to hit here. It might hit here, blah, blah. And they get to be athletes, you know. And this year was the first year where they got to be athletes. And then the wins proved itself. They got to be athletes and just kind of go play. And well, coach, I'm sorry I didn't hit it here. And I'm like, I don't care. You got a first down. I really don't care. You're making me look
Yep.
good.
Yep. We're in the same boat. That was when I got hired at Franklin, that was the first change that I made was we got rid of the number system
Yeah. Yeah.
on offense. They'd kind of been running the same stuff for and granted they were, you know, I'm not going to take credit for all us being good all of a sudden. They were successful before I got here. They were really good, but I just felt like the system, you know, it was outdated. You know,
Uh-huh.
they had been kind of doing a lot of the same stuff for, you know, 15 going on 20 years. Franklin was one of the first spread offense teams in probably the whole state of Wisconsin. So they kind of got the novelty of it for a few years, and then just maintained what they called it. You know, they made some tweaks and stuff over the years, obviously, but yeah, the numbers got me. I know I grew up I ran the wing tee in high
Yeah.
school, so I know that, I know one. You got the whole series. I got 124 trap and 121 sweep and 121 waggle and
Mhm.
121 waggle throwback, and I know the whole series of number. I get how it can make sense, but yeah, and I think nowadays with the way football is played, you don't get to tell a kid and now, say, well, here's the 4 hole, and you tell them a number, and they're going to think, well, I have to hit it the 4 hole. It's like, no, no, it's more of a suggestion.
Yeah.
That's probably your aiming point, but it doesn't mean you're
Yep.
going to hit it there. But just, yeah, I felt like get rid of it and just give everything. I've always been a big name guy. To me, we had that when I was in college. They had names for stuff, and I liked
Mhm.
it so much better. So yeah, that's how we are now. We have no numbers. I take that back. We use numbers, but we have a play called Niner, right? So that's about as
Uh-huh.
as close to a number as we get. So
Yeah, we try to do both. So last year we were no huddle all the time. And we had both. We had the words with a direction or a number. Now the number meant nothing. So like if it was 22, that's just inside zone right. It's not telling you to go the two. He could say 26, and that meant
yeah,
inside zone. That's when we were going really fast. If we wanted to go fast, this is what we want you to say. If it was a little slower, you could say, Indy South, that could be inside zone or whatever it was. I can't remember. This year we were a huddle team, which it killed me on the inside at the beginning of the year. But with the quarterback situations and stuff, we were like, let's go huddle and stuff like that. And so we still use numbers. We got rid of the names. We just said, just say the number in the huddle. Linemen are going to know. So I mean, I guess, but it's not
mm-hmm.
the old school. Like we ran power I option. So I remember 12 option, 22 option, and man, he's stepping wider, and the two is who it's going to, and all that stuff. And I know
Yeah,
some spread coaches still do that. They'll say 21, which means it's inside zone, but it's going to your second back from a two back set. But I don't like that anymore either. I mean, it's good, but I personally don't do that.
yeah, yeah. No, we don't do any of that stuff. We've gotten completely to words. We too have kind of gone back. I mean, we still are mostly, well, I'd say we're like half huddle. Let's put it that way. Our skill guys, our receivers do not huddle.
Okay.
We have our linemen just basically they back up a couple yards off the ball
Uh-huh.
and just kind of get into a semicircle, and then the quarterback will stand right there and just give them the play quick, and then we get to the line really quick, and we we do some different snap count things. We do some dummy cadences, and we do the clap and different things depending on the opponent. If it's a real aggressive opponent or team does a lot of stemming and stuff, then we'll probably do some more of that. But yeah, we've kind of slowed it down a little bit, from the tempo perspective, just to help our quarter. We've gotten so we run more and more stuff, I'd say, every year. So giving the quarterback a little bit more time just to diagnose what's going on and all that. So slowed it a little bit, and I think we also had run into, if you know what our calls are, or how we call a pass versus how we call a run, and you hear our quarterback making that call to our alignment, it's
Right.
probably pretty obvious. So I think we ran into that situation at least with one team that we play every year. that had picked up on that, and I think they had used that to their advantage against us in the
Right.
22 season. So that was part of the reason why we went to that, just to eliminate the possibility of anybody picking up on our calls. But we do have a couple different, and we don't use wristbands or anything like that
Yeah.
either. We got I've never loved using wristbands. I got rid of those too. But a lot of our stuff will give the quarterback some freedom. Hey, if a play is called Iowa, hey guys, who's the coach of Iowa? Kirk Ferentz. Well, maybe when he runs to the line, he's going to say Kirk Ferentz instead of Iowa. Things like that. So we kind of
Right.
got into some of that type of stuff where give guys some freedom so that it doesn't sound the same every time if we're in a no huddle scenario. So
Right. That's a good idea. I don't know if my kids are smart enough for that.
yeah, you got to have guys that know that stuff. We have a lot of terms like that in our system. Team names and mascots and states and all that type of stuff. So if you got kids that are good with that or they're sports fans, then it'll probably work.
Well, believe it or not, like our one of our plays was like New York would be to the right and certain teams from California would be to the left. It's the same play, but if you had to change, because in the huddle we say it, but if you had to change it, let's say we shifted and we needed to be changed, he yelled out Niners, and one of my kids went to the right, and he goes, "Well, you said this in the huddle. I don't know what Niners is." He didn't know that it meant 49ers. And I'm like, "Okay, let's start over
Yeah.
and try this again." Or the best was there's two Giants teams. There's one in New York and there's one in California. So he said Giants. So they went to the right. Why won't you go to the left? Well, Giants is in New York. So we were like, okay, Giants is a baseball team. And I had two kids go, who cares about baseball?
Yep. Yeah, I remember hearing. I think that similar setup. I think it was Noel Mazzoni at one point. I saw him there. It might have been in Chicago at Glacier Clinic. They were calling. Um, they were calling something New York and L.A. Those are their terms for one of them. I heard that like he had a lot of stuff like that where it was, where they had who was there? Somebody that had East Coast. Maybe it might have been JT. JT O'Sullivan was telling me he had East Coast rappers and West Coast rappers. So he had like Tupac and Biggie and things like that. So yeah, he had some pretty interesting stuff. So if your kids know that stuff, I'm sure you can get it. The old the East Coast West Coast rap wars back in the '90s. I don't know how many kids now know about that, but yeah, we have we've used Top Gun characters. That
Nice.
that was good. They did Most of the kids unfortunately did not know the names of a lot of the older characters from the original Top Gun, so
Oh,
we
God.
had to teach them. Which they knew Maverick, they knew Iceman. Some of the other ones they weren't so clear on. But
These
yeah,
kids don't even know. They don't,
yeah,
they just, I'm
yeah.
not even old. Oh, I feel old, but I'm not old. And I'll tell them those movies and they go, when was that made?
Yeah. Hmm.
Um, on the another funny one. I'll never forget at a clinic years ago. This coach, he was at a private high school, maybe in Michigan. I don't remember. They freeze call a lot. Like they want to do check with me's. And so he was saying what they call it. And he was like, yeah, I use my wife's name. I use my daughter's name. The OC uses his ex-wife's name and blah, 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 blah. And so when you hear the girls' names, it's freeze. And a coach raised his hand and goes, well, why are you picking those names? And he was like, well, that's our freeze call, and they're all cold-hearted bitches, so that's why we have to do that.
Nice,
And
nice.
so the high school I was at, I said, hey, I don't want this to be the reason, but what if the quarterback just said one of our wives or girlfriends' names? Not because of that reason. I just think it would throw people off. And so the head coach was like, hey, don't tell any other coaches and let's just see what happens. So we said, hey, call out the O line coach's wife's name. And he started doing, he looks around and is she here? Okay. Then a little bit later, he says, like the wide receivers coach, and he goes, what? Because we didn't tell him we were doing check with me. I was the OC. I was like, I didn't tell him we were doing check with me's. And I told them the story and they're like, what are you trying to say about our wives? I'm like, no, that's not it.
Yeah, yeah, that's
Not the
good. Yeah,
reason.
that's one. The freeze area is one area where I need to come up with a way. I know because we do not a ton of it. Maybe 4 or 5 times a game, if that. But a way to get to play so that the quarterback doesn't just have to, say it up to, or give away the play call when he tells the lineman what it ends up being after we do the freeze. I know that's one thing that thought about in the past. We play against certain teams that we play every year who they probably have an idea of what we're doing, and then they get that and like, oh shit, I wonder if they hear that call, if they're gonna know if it's a pass or if it's a run. So something I'm gonna have to toy around with.
Yeah, we thought about having the line look at me for signals sometimes. One school I was at, their colors are red and black, and so they always yelled, if he yelled black first, like black, black, red, red, the black was telling people it was a pass.
Mm-hmm.
It's red, red, black, black. It's saying it's a run, but then he always mixed it up. So if it was like black, black, red, red, even Gary, Florida, well, it's telling him like, hey, Florida's the pass play. That even Gary meant nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Even Gary's the run play. And then if he's yelling red, red, black, black, odd Gary, Texas A&M. Well, it's telling the line, hey, we're running trap because it's Gary. That's what the G's for. We're running to the left, and that was it.
Yep.
It worked pretty well. We didn't know huddle all the time, but that part worked pretty well. We did check with
Yep.
me. He quickly did it.
Yep. Yeah. So that's something we're gonna have to come up with a better system for. This. Probably do that this coming year. So
We have to do the same thing. We were a huddle team, wanted to check, and same thing. He had to yell to the line, and eventually they
mm-hmm.
figure it out. And then the line gets mad, and you're yelling, "Well, I don't care if they know." And but in your league,
Yep.
probably with the teams you're playing, you're like, "Well, I don't want them to know at all because they're pretty smart." For us, we get away with it with some teams we played. Like
Yeah.
they're not going to, because
Yeah.
like, do you guys two platoon?
Yeah, we do. Yeah.
Okay, we don't.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have that luxury.
Yeah.
My whole line
Yeah.
did not play defense. I will say that was pretty fortunate. Everybody
Nice. Yeah.
else was free game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I was gonna say, it seems like you have a lot in, so you have to be able to like just two platoon and be able to meet with them all the time and get that done.
Yes. Yeah. That's beneficial for sure. Yeah. We only had one. Like I mentioned, the D lineman that came over and he played a little guard, played a little fullback. But that was really well, him and the other D lineman that other kid just played basically are either a fullback or a third tight end. Really is all he did. So he had the easy job. You just tell him, hey, you always go opposite the call, and for the most part, you don't have to do a whole hell of a lot. You're usually the backside of stuff. Occasionally, we run something to the backside of the heavy formation, but not a ton. So,
Um, I know one other thing football's changed is practice planning and strength conditioning and speed. Like the feed the cats thing has become monstrous.
yep.
And I got to talk to Coach Holler last year on here. Are you guys dabbling in that? Do you do that, or is it something that is talked about up there? As it because Tony Holler, he lives 15 minutes down the street from me. I didn't know that.
Yep.
He's in the town next over, and it's
Mhm.
starting to. He's been doing it for 20 years, but it's starting to all over the place.
Yep. Somewhat. Our head coach is no, he's been coaching for 31 years, so
Yeah.
he's still got some of the old school mentality. But he's definitely come around to a lot of the principles of Feed the Cats.
Uh,
As far as we still do conditioning at practice. I will say that, but it is very football specific. It's not some arbitrary. Okay, let's jog around in a circle and do an up down every 10. We don't do that. It's either typically something to speed based. We're doing sprints or we're doing some kind of change of direction type stuff.
right.
It's pretty for the most part in line. I would say if a feed the cast team were going to do conditioning, that's probably what they would do. As far as practice and off season stuff, our practices, I would say we rarely are on the field for more than 90 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
But we two platoon, so that helps with that aspect
Right.
of it. We are also fortunate in that we can two platoon our scout team, right? We have enough kids, so we can do offense and defense at the same time.
Right.
Have two full scout teams and have subs for all four components there. Your offense, defense, scout O, scout D. So we get a lot done. For me, I've definitely kind of trimmed the fat when it comes to practice planning. We don't, especially once you get into game weeks,
Mm-hmm.
we don't do a lot of indie. We do, we really focus on the stuff that we think is going to win us games. A
Mhm.
lot of team group stuff. Our O linemen still do. They usually have, I'd say, 20-ish, 25 minutes of indie most, at least on a Tuesday and Wednesday practice. Just they kind of have a routine. Tuesday is their run day. They're going to go up, do their footwork stuff, go, do their sled work. There's their combo stuff, and then Wednesdays is pass protections and blitz pickup stuff. Um, we don't, we've trimmed a ton back. We probably do. I'd say if you were, well, one of the nice things we do too, I will say, is as far as warm ups go, we warm up in position groups. So we
Mhm.
we essentially steal an indie for warm ups. So you do a position specific warm up. So like I coach quarterbacks, right? So we do what we need to do to get our arms warmed up, get our hips boosts, get all that stuff done. We have a 12-minute period to basically do whatever we need to do there. And then we do a individual special teams period.
Mhm.
So everybody except for the quarterbacks and the centers and our old linemen for the most part goes to, hey, the gunners go do this, the kickers do this, the punters do this, the punt returners are doing this. They may do. I don't have any special teams responsibilities because I'm the O coordinator, so I don't know a ton about our special teams. Are outstanding. Our coordinator, they do a great job, but yeah, I know next to nothing about what they do. Um, so we have that, and that's nice because we steal time during that, which is where our quarterbacks we're taking snaps from the center, right? We're going
Right.
through our drops. We're getting all of our drops in. We're getting our footwork done in that period. So, and that's a 6-minute period. So you go 18 minutes, we're on the field for 18 minutes, and we've already essentially done almost all of our indie that we're going to do for the day right there.
Right.
And we haven't even technically, done any true team stuff. And then we usually go right from there to a team period, which is, we do our heavy install stuff on Monday. So like a Tuesday, the first team period would be left hash openers, right? So we're going first and second downs from the left hash. That's like an 8-minute period. We do that. Then then you might have an indie period, about an 8-minute indie period for some of the positions, like the O linemen probably go. Typically, then the QBs and running backs, we go together. We go through all of our backfield action stuff, footwork. If we're maybe this week we're running counter from the same side or something, so we're going to make sure we hit that a few times just to tweak, make sure we're good with the footwork. Go from that. Typically, then it's pass game, um, routes on air, maybe a skelly period, another 8 minutes. And then the linemen usually come back then, and that's when we'll go to our right hash, do our first and second downs on the right hash. Then we have a special teams period. After that, we come back from special teams, and it's usually a situational period for us. Tuesdays are third downs for us. So we have a 10-minute third down period where we're probably working, depending on what we have in the game plan, probably 3 to 5 of each down and distance, basically, third and long, third medium, third and short.
Right.
And then we have one more full go team period, which is like a team move the ball kind of that was one thing that I wanted to do this year. Is I felt like previous years I had been so script heavy that we never had a just move the ball and call it, live period in practice. So I wanted to do that this year. So that's that period that we do right at the end. And then, we typically do our conditioning stuff and we're out. So
Right. Yeah.
nothing crazy.
Our head coach, let's see, he's 38, 39, but he played linebacker in college. So he has that old school, like, why don't you just hit people? Like, why are we not, whatever. So when I was telling him about this feed the cats thing, my friend does it and this and that, he was like, this doesn't make sense. This doesn't make sense to me. I don't want to even mess with it. And then the more I kept bringing it up, the more he's like, well, do we have to do the whole thing and blah, blah. And I said, hey, I don't know what you're going to do with Lyman. I'm going to try to do it. And he goes, what do you mean? I said, okay, let's say Wednesday, we're going to do a lot of team. Well, inside run and team that day. Let's just say we're doing both. Well, an individual, we're not going to hit at all. I'm not going to hit at all. And he goes, what do you mean? I said, they're going to use hand shields. We're just going to do footwork. We're not doing one-on-ones. We're not doing this. And he goes, what do you mean? I was like, trust me. Because just, I said, think about it. Like if I hit an individual, then we go hit an inside run, then we go hit and team, they're going to be tired. And I was like, this mentality that or this thought process makes sense to me now. Because I think about when we all played, we did that. We're getting tired. I want them to be healthy. I want them to be fresh on Friday. So, but we two platoons. So our guys are also practicing defense later on in the day. We have to split it in two. Like we're doing offense the first 50 minutes, defense the next 50. I have to look at what the defense is doing in the game plan, which made my life harder. So what are you guys doing today? Are you guys hitting a lot in defensive line? Okay, then I can't hit today in offense. So it became a lot of game planning for me this year and practice plan. I used to just be able to do it. Now I'm like, now I have to look at everything. But I will say this was the healthiest we've been since I've been there. So I think there was something to, and then everybody else started to pick up on it. Like other position groups were like, well, yeah, maybe you're onto something. Maybe if we don't hit all the time, maybe if we're not always 100% running. And like, we didn't even condition really. We still did the old school flex, move around, stretch stuff that I cannot stand anymore. Our strength coach interned at Northwestern, so that's what they did, and I
Yep.
hated it. Every day I walked out there, I was like, "Flex is stupid. This is stupid. Why can't I not just take the O line and do O line stuff? Why can't the quarterback just not go throw? You know, like
Yeah, exactly.
dumb."
Yeah, yeah. I'm in the same boat. I love the position warm ups. That's great. But the other side of it, so the off season stuff, for the most part, um, I don't know. I've been to TFC twice. It's been a couple of years since I've been to one. But I've always loved them, and I've always taken ideas as far as strength and conditioning stuff back. The one area that I would like to see us improve on is we don't do a great job. Tony calls it the record, rank, publish
Uh-huh.
stuff. In the weight room and all of that. I don't think we do a great job with that. I think we could get our kids for the most part. We're at the point now where we're successful, and the kids know that the weight room is not
Mhm.
really optional anymore. So they're in there. But I think it would help out with some of you get some of the fringe kids that just kind of they're in there to pass the time and check their name off that they were in there. I'd like to see us do a little bit more of that stuff and come up with some different things to measure. I know he's got um, there was a coach that did some stuff with like the hex bar deadlift. They
Uh-huh.
had I forget the number that I have it somewhere on my computer, but that, and then there was a force number or something like that. It was like your max on that divided by your body weight or something. And they had like tiers for,
Yeah.
if you can do 3 times your body weight, you're in this tier, and 2 times you're in this. I'd like to see us do something like that. And then they had a speed one as well, I think too, where it was, your 40 time divided something with your weight. I think it was one of those weird math conversions, like they converted it to meters per second or something like that. And then it was all, I would like to do something like that just to help, give our guys a better, because we don't do a ton of testing. We probably max out 2 or 3 times in the off season. I'd like to see some more of that stuff. But as far as the lifting goes, I'd say we're smart about that. Like we make the main thing the main thing. We're not going to be in there doing 20 different lifts. It's going to get in there, you do the things that you need to do. They're in the program. It's probably 6 things or something that they got to do in there, and they're out. We typically do a speed thing before we go in a couple times a week. Like I do the weight room or I run it on Wednesdays, and I always do speed stuff. Whether we might do some plyo stuff, different jumps or bounds, sprinting, that type of stuff. And then we start at 2:45, and I'd say for the most part, everybody's done by 3:30. It's in and out pretty quick. So
Yeah, that I'm in the same boat. I want to see more of like we're gonna have a weightlifting board put up and all that stuff, but I do want to see that. I want, and the RPR stuff that they do to get certified. Me and the head coach actually might go do it because it's a small world. One of the schools he worked at, Chris Corfus, was actually the track coach. They actually know each other. So it's a small world. He's at home with Flossmore, which is not crazy far. So we might fully get into it where we're kind of, I even told him I'll do the speed thing because talking to Coach Holler, he's like, yeah, if you do it right, it takes you 15 minutes. Like I'm like, what do you mean? He goes, your kid may only run twice. I'm like, what do you mean he might run twice? Well, he's tired. And then there's that part of my brain that clicks in. I'm like, well, quit being lazy. Just get up and run more.
Yep.
You know,
Yep.
my
Yeah,
my
that's
buddy,
the thing. The sprints, I'd say, like when I do it, I rarely ever have to do more than we like the hall. So we have to run in a hallway, right? We're one of those schools. We don't have the best facilities, but we have two drinking fountains that fortunately are like 30-ish yards apart, right? So that's where we run our sprints. We go drinking fountain to drinking fountain. It's about, like I said, 30 something yards. Rarely do we do that. Each kid will do that 3, maybe 4 times, and that's it. Like when we do the sprints, boom,
right,
get it done, get in the weight room, let's go.
right. I'm hoping that's what we.
Sorry, didn't mean to cut you off there.
Oh no, I hope that's what we do because my buddy did it years ago, and this is when I first heard about it. And he goes, "Yeah, Steve, if you come to one of my track meets, you're gonna think we're the laziest team ever." And I was like, "What do you mean?" He goes, "We'll run, and then we sit for 5 minutes and do nothing." And I said, "What do you mean you sit?" He goes, "No, literally, we sit on the ground and do nothing for 5 minutes. Then we get up, do it again." And I was like, "Can you explain that to me?" And he goes, "Well, your body's going to reset itself to get up and go." And I was like, "That's stupid. That's dumb." And then he was showing me, he kept sending me the results. It was a girls' track team of how fast they were running and how much faster they got. And then he goes, "Look, they went from like 18 miles per hour. Now I've got them to 20. Can you imagine a girl running 20 miles per hour?" And I'm like, okay.
That's flying.
Well, then COVID hit. So then I was like, well, I'm more curious in football stuff. And then Brad Dixon, I talked to him and the stuff he was telling me still didn't click with me. None of it was like, none of it made sense. Like the stuff being told to me, I'm like, wait a minute now. Like, you're supposed to run in practice. You're supposed to do this. You're supposed to do this. This makes no sense. He goes, yeah, we don't put pads on till Wednesday and stuff like that. I'm like, none of this makes sense. None of this. And then for some reason, this, not this year, but the year before, it just all of a sudden I was looking, I was like, okay. So I was like, why don't I just go to the source, talk to Coach Holler? And all of a sudden it just, but then I told him, I was like, but you mean there's math? I have to do math. I'm a lineman coach. I'm not doing math.
Yep.
And he goes, yeah.
Yep.
He's like, unfortunately, Steve, you're gonna have to do some math. I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
shoot.
Yeah, I think that like we were talking about the conditioning at practice, and I think that's one thing that we've really benefited from is Tony talks about that is, if you're going to do conditioning, the best thing is to crowd together those, the anaerobic, work really quick. You're going to do whatever it is, your 20s, your 40s, whatever, and you crowd them together quickly, but they get, you get a bit of a break in the middle, in between them. And I think that has benefited us a ton, at least early in the season. I've noticed it this year a lot. So our first game of the year, the team that we played against, and I don't know what they do in practice. They have no idea, but they cramped. I would say it was 10-1, the
Yep.
number of their guys that cramped compared to ours. I don't know that we had anybody, and they had almost their quarterback, their receivers, their DBs. I mean, it was almost fascinating to see how many of them were cramping. Honestly, I had never seen anything like it before, but I think that benefited our guys a ton because they, and I know I've seen Tony talk about probably the problem with kids cramping early in the season or throughout the season is that they're never getting up to full speed during the week. You run a play in practice, you may not. Probably for the most part, a lot of your kids don't,
Right.
with the exception of maybe the receivers or maybe probably only 1 or 2 receivers on a given play, depending on what the pass play is or your running back. But our guys are getting up to full speed when we do our conditioning. It's a speed. The focus is speed, but yeah, we're going to crowd together the efforts like that so that they're getting that work. So definitely,
Right.
I think at least, and that could just be me wanting to think that. I think that helped us a ton early in the season.
Yeah. And I got away from the running for punishment and like up down things.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because individual time, especially with me, if you're dealing with all these linemen, they piss me off. I'm gonna be like, hey, everybody start doing up downs. Hey, everybody go run. Hey, everybody do this. I got away from that. I just said, hey, you know what, guys? The here's my 5-minute segment of my 20-minute individual. the first 3 minutes have looked bad, I'm going straight to the next thing. I'm not going to continue this. I'm going to move on. And so there was times I got to team stuff early and they're like, oh, bad practice. If I was there early, they were like, oh, bad practice. I'm like, yep, because we just skipped it and I'm moving on. There
Mhm.
was twice I think I made them do up downs to explain to the kids, now do you feel tired? Do you feel how stupid this is? Like now, blah, 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 blah. And so I think that helped too, getting away from the go take a lap or go do this. I'm just like, you know what? You're the one that's going to look stupid, not me. Like that type of mentality of, and that actually started to click with those guys when they realized, like, oh, the coach looks disappointed. We got to fix this. It wasn't the running no more. It was he looks disappointed. We're not getting the job done. And so it turned into a better practice after than making them run.
Yep. Yeah. My two things, either A, I'll, if we're playing like garbage, it's not run or yell at them. I'll tell them, all right, get out of here. Go stand on the sideline. Get away from me. Like we're
Yep.
done for now.
Yep.
Like
Yep.
that's the number one thing that I do. And then if we're able to, and it's like an individual that's doing it, so long as we have somebody else, it's you get out of there, you in.
Hmm.
I do a lot of that. So long as we can, no, we can't. We're fortunate that we can a lot of the time, not all the time. Um,
Right.
we have the ability to, a certain position, like if it's the quarterback, yeah, that might just be a hey, quit being a dumbass,
Right.
one of those
Right.
conversations really quick. Or the old hey, if I could, I would replace you right now. I had to use that one a couple of times.
Or
But
like, hey, we're just going to run the ball every play now. So you're not even going to throw it. Well, coach,
yep.
it's third
Oh
and
yeah.
12. I don't care. Hand
Well,
it off.
yeah. Draw.
Or draw. Yes.
Yeah.
We've done that
Yep.
before too, where we've done that with this kid where he complains and we're like, then he wants to pass it. And me and this kid get along great. So it was just funny. Then I'm like, well, no, we're going to run it because you were just complaining about something. So we're going to run it or whatever it is. Oh,
Yep.
we did that too. We actually adopted the philosophy of if this kid wants to argue with us and do this, we actually would send kids home, even if we couldn't afford to. We were like, just hey, today's not your day. Go home,
Yep.
call mom and dad and say, hey, Johnny did this, whatever. Come back tomorrow. We'll try again. You're not kicked off the
Yep.
team. We'll just try again tomorrow. And so the head coach adopted some of that. And so I think each year we're going to get more and more to the less is more philosophy type of thing.
Yep.
And but there was times we went back to old school, like, okay, today we got to hit a lot, we got to do this, we got to do one on one, and I'm like, no, we don't, not necessarily. Let's get away from that.
Yep.
And the proof's in the pudding. We were relatively healthy this year. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, second round of the playoffs, never really lost anybody. Like, yeah, we were banged up, obviously, but like they because like you said, there were some teams that two platooned as well, and we wore them down somehow. Like we would wear
Yep.
them down when we normally shouldn't have. Like we only had 38 kids on the varsity team. We went against a team that had 50 or 60, and we wore them down. Somehow, some way, we wore them down. I'm not saying what we
Mm-hmm.
did that changed it, but it just kind of maybe there was something to it where we weren't just killing them all summer and killing them all season. Maybe.
Yep. Yeah. Same boat. We're in the same boat. Yeah, we only had injury wise, we did lose one of our tight ends down the stretch late in the season. He broke a bone in his foot in a play. Just
Right.
one of those unfortunate things that happens. Not because of any. There wasn't a stress fracture or anything like that. Like he rolled up in a awkward and broke a bone in the side of his foot. So
Right.
like that. Well, yeah. Otherwise, we had. I don't think we had any soft tissue injuries that I can think of anyway. At least on offense, we were pretty good. Um, and then the wearing teams down, kind of the same thing. I think we were in the same boat, and we've kind of had that happen a few times over the past few years. We had a team that we played back in 21. Um, we played twice. We played them the week one game, which they were beating us 28-7 at half, and we ended up winning that game 35-31.
Wow.
And then we played them again in the state semifinals, and they were beating us 19-3 with 9 minutes left, and we came back and beat them. And it was the same boat. I think we just wore them down. They were playing some guys. Granted, they had 5 really good linemen, and they were playing them all both ways. So I think it just got to the point where those big boys, they got tired.
Right.
They're weak. That was a long week for them. And then we came out and we're running, we're fast and moving around a lot. They got worn down in the fourth quarter. We owned them. Came back,
Right.
scored. We ended up winning the playoff. We were down 19-3 with 9 minutes left, won 26-19. In the first round game, we scored. I think we scored 21 points in the last 6 minutes or something like that. Yeah.
That's crazy.
So, yep.
Yep.
But
He only had one bad injury. We brought up a freshman last year to play varsity. He was just he was a kid, like a dude. We had to bring him up. Well, for freshman basketball, for me, tore his MCL and ACL in basketball in January. Wasn't supposed to get him back to October. He healed so quickly, we got him back in September. Doctor cleared him, whatever, played him, scored 2 touchdowns his first game. Like every game, he was scoring a touchdown. We were like, we got to get this. And first round playoff game, first pass to him was 21 yards. He's running, tries to do this weird spin thing, and as he's doing it, they hit him and they hit him, grabbing his other knee, and we were like, oh shit. And gets the MRI, tears his ACL in the other knee. We're just like, 15-year-old kid, 16-year-old kid has to have another surgery. So during the surgery, they found out he also tore the MCL. So they had to put all that back together. So he's torn both of them in both knees.
yeah, that's rough. Yeah, no, I think of it. We had a younger running back tear his ACL in the JV game early in the season. I know that, but I think that was the only other one I can think of. So luckily we were deep at running back, so it didn't have a major effect on us. He was kind of down the depth chart a little bit anyway, but so
It's always sad when that happens.
yeah, you feel terrible for the kid. Especially when it happens. I think it was our week 2 game. It's early in the season. You got the whole way to go still, and now you're done. That's
right.
That's a tough break.
And I also learned because he was walking, and I said, how can he walk tearing these things? And they said his thighs were so strong that it was overcompensating.
Oh yeah.
Because when he tore it as a freshman, I was so confident he didn't tear it because he was walking and he jumped, and I'm like, oh, he's fine. He just stretched it or whatever. Then they said they tore it. I felt so bad because I felt like I lied to him. I was like, no, you didn't tear it. You're fine. Look at what you're doing. You're fine. And then he did. And I asked the trainer, and they're like, his thighs are just so strong that it like overcompensates it. And so now he's back in the sleep. He's back in the leg brace. He's like, I'll be back in June. And we're like, shut up. Just don't come back till our season's getting pushed back like a week. So we're like, don't come back to the very end of August. Like, you're fine. And he goes, no, I'll be back. And he was an all conference player after missing 3 games. Like, that's just how the impact he made. Mm-hmm. And I was just like, no, you're fine. You're going to be fine. But I said, are you going to have, I'm afraid to have a fear of it. But and I said something to him about it. He goes, I have nothing else to tear. So I'm good. And so that's his mindset. I'm like, well, that's great.
True. Yeah. Good way to think of it. Yeah. Yeah. No, I tore my ACL in college and my meniscus, so I know how it goes. It's not a fun experience.
I think I did. I never did anything about it. So I'm just ignoring it.
Yeah, there's that. Yeah. Yeah. I had would have been my junior year of college, I tore it. Yeah. So late November, or it would have been like mid-November, I guess. Yeah, then this was what, 2007 probably. So took probably a good 6 months before I was fully back. The meniscus bugged me more than the ACL ever did. I know that. I think probably because of the way, the joint sits on that. There were some issues with that. But yeah, the ACL, I haven't had any problems with it since. But yeah, I always feel terrible for a kid when it happens because I know how disheartening and how much of a pain in the ass it is to rehab that. That's not fun.
No, but he heals quickly. Like the doctors told us, like he heals ridiculously quick. Like we were shocked game 3 or so, like, hey, he's ready to go, or game 4, whatever it was. We're like, what? Are you sure?
That's impressive. That's quick.
Oh, and then we were so nervous to play him. He got hit, and we're like, oh, and he got up and he's like, okay. And I was like, okay, he got hit. There we go. And then the next play, he took off like a 60-yard touchdown, and we're like, he's back. He's good. He looks. Nice. He comes off. I was like, you look kind of slow, and he goes, Coach, I'm out of shape. I'm out of shape.
Yep.
I haven't done anything in months besides the rehab. But he's also the kid that has no fear. So he was trying to run routes with us in like August. And we're like, what are you doing? Like, he goes, oh, I'm good. And we're like, you're going to tear something. And he tore it later on. I'm like, oh, shit.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
mom would come pick him up. Was he running again? And we're like, yeah, he keeps running. And mom's like, God damn it. She goes, he does it at home too. He tries to go outside and do stuff, and we have to tell him to sit down and not do anything.
Yeah, I don't blame him. You get one shot at it, so do it while you can. And
Well, he's super positive kid. He was like, I got to be there for the first playoff game, not for the second one. And I still have 2 years left of football. And we're like, well, that's a good way to look at it. He goes, maybe
yeah,
division. He's so realistic. He goes, maybe Division III football or so. Like he's so realistic about it. And he goes, but I got 2 more years. And I'm like, okay, at least you're positive. I said, if I was your age, I don't know if I'd be as positive. I'd be like, this sucks. It's stupid. And like I said, I think I did tear something on my knee. I'm 33 and sometimes I buckle. And I'm like, maybe I did, but I'm ignoring it.
yeah, yeah. I'm a little older. I'm 37, so I got a couple more years on it. But yeah, mine's been good ever since though. Haven't had any issues. So,
You're not old, coach. You look like you're still 20s.
well, I still have all my hair. That helps. So,
Yeah, I don't. Mine's slowly, but I cut it so you can't see the gray. That's my excuse. Is that
oh,
way
there
you
you go.
can't
Yeah, I'm
see it.
getting that though on the sides here. So it's
Well,
starting to show up.
the kids say I'm bald just because of my hairline. I'm like, this hairline has been here since like 25. I'm 33, so I'm doing pretty good. Then why is it so short? And I'm like, because you guys make it fall out. And I do all three sports, so all the gray hair is going to pop in at some point. And especially doing basketball, like all the gray hair. I think that's what they told
Oh
me.
yeah.
I think they said football coaches go bald and basketball coaches get gray hair. And I'm like, so I'm going to do both.
Yeah.
I think that's what they
Yep.
told me.
Yeah. Well, whatever's left will be gray, huh?
Oh yeah, I was getting a haircut, and they were cutting back here, and I made a comment about being old, and they're like, "Oh yeah, there's gray hairs back here." And I was like, "I'm just
Oh,
joking,"
yeah. Thanks.
and I was like, "There goes your tip," because you were just telling me I had gray hairs back here. And she goes, "Really? I'm sorry." And I was like, "No, I'll still tip you, but like you just told me I had gray hairs."
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, coach, I appreciate you coming on. I realized what time it was. Appreciate you coming.
All good.
I just wanted to talk other ball with people. I've been basketball mode, and I'm like, I want to go
Oh
back
yeah.
and talk some ball.
Yep. Yeah, exactly, man. Anytime. No, I always enjoy coming on and talking football whenever I can. I know it's weird. I mean, we're only what are we, a couple two it's been a couple weeks now. 2 weeks ago Friday was our last game. So yeah, I've had a little
Oh
little
wow.
time to decompress now. Yeah, we're a week ahead of you guys. So our state championship would have been the 17th, I believe. Right. So it probably would have been your guys' semifinal weekend, I think.
Yeah, because ours
So
is Thanksgiving is the state title game.
yep. Yeah, we're the Friday before Thanksgiving is ours. They play them Thursday and Friday, but they play the smaller divisions first. So we're
Okay.
always the main event at the end because we're the big dogs. So
Right. Yeah, I think our last game was November 3rd. Yeah, it's been a month. I can't believe it. It feels
mhm.
like longer. I feel like it's been a long time.
The first few days, I know I came home. It was Thanksgiving that week, so we didn't do any equipment collection, and that Monday Tuesday back to school afterwards, and I came home and I'm home by I live no I'm 3-4 minutes away from the school, so I'm very close. So I get home and I sit down on the sofa. My kids aren't home from school yet, and I just hanging out. And my wife works from home, and she came upstairs and just asked how it's going. I'm like, yeah, it's good. It's weird.
Hmm.
You get those first week or so afterwards, and I felt you got all this extra time. It's almost like I didn't know what to do with myself. I felt like I should be doing something. I'm used to. I get home and it's okay. Well, we're gonna eat dinner. Spend an hour with the kids, get them ready for bed, and then they go to bed, and it's all right. I'm back at it. Film. Getting the next day's practice plans done, and it's an odd feeling those first couple weeks after the season.
Right. Yeah, I went, like I said, I went right into basketball the way it just was set up. I had the weekend off, which I always did. That Monday was basketball, so I didn't know what I was like. I'm still at it. The first day where I did nothing was Thanksgiving. Like the day of Thanksgiving was the first day where you're like, I don't have to go to practice. I don't have to do anything. That's cool.
Yeah,
And I won't get a break in there's a week in between, a week and a half between basketball ending and baseball starting. I think that'll be the first time, and it'll be February, the end of February. I think.
Yeah, basketball is a long haul. That's a what, November to March
Yeah, if your varsity
for a
goes
lot.
into like that in
Yeah,
Illinois, yeah, it'll go to like March.
it's a long haul.
Oh yeah, and then baseball's not even funner. You start second week of March, and it goes into the high school I coach baseball at. They made it to the Final Four. That goes into June.
Yep. Hmm. Yep. Yeah, our baseball team made it to state last year, and I think they were probably still playing at least a week or two after school was out.
Yeah, yep. They
Mhm.
they had to they do summer baseball with the high schools. They had to cancel the first week of June or so because they were in the state. So it goes way deep into that. And so he's like, "Yeah, we got to cancel it," because he pays the coaches to do it. And he's like, "Yeah, I got to cancel this because we're still playing." And we're like, "That's
Yep.
okay. You're in the Final
Hmm.
Four. Go play."
Yep.
Because they have a kid
Exactly.
going. They have a kid going to Wake Forest. He's projected third round draft pick as a pitcher already.
Yeah, that's not bad.
No,
Nice
it's
to have
not.
those guys around.
No. Well, Coach, I appreciate you coming back on, though. I appreciate it so much.
Yeah, absolutely. Appreciate you having me.
Everybody, what's your Twitter? I'll put it on there. I don't know what it is.
I am at, I believe I'm at Drew Ambrose QB. Let me confirm that. Yes, at Drew Ambrose QB.
All right, everybody, go follow Coach. Super smart guy when it comes to
Yeah,
offense. Like and subscribe, all that good stuff. And Coach, thanks for being here.
no problem.